Thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Kristen and I am the Patient Leader Network Coordinator here at WeGo Health. We like to do a patient leader webinar each month, and we've started to really explore the platforms that you guys use day in and day out, and we really want to bring you guys better tips and tricks and all these strategies. So we are pulling together the best of the best, and this week we are discussing Twitter, and we are honored to have three top patient leader tweeters. Do you know how hard it is to say patient leader? I was like,
Say it 5 times.
fast. Yeah. It is so tough. But each of them are incredibly strong leaders, and they are really using Twitter to the ultimate advantage. So we have Tiffany, we have Justin, and we have Randy, who each are using Twitter in kind of different ways. If you go through their feeds, you get a different style, and maybe one's informative while one's more fun and like, I know we have a hilarious patient leader nominee on here. So I want to give each of them a moment to introduce themselves. They really are phenomenal patient leaders. They are also nominated, all of them, for the WeGo Health Awards. So let's hear from each of them before we jump into them giving us all the tips that will make our Twitters just as awesome. So let's start with Tiffany. If you could tell us what community you are advocating for, a little bit about your background, and a little bit about you.
Okay, well, my name is Tiffany Carroll. I advocate for epilepsy awareness, and I am the founder of the Epilepsy Network organization and community. And I've been living with epilepsy for almost 10 years now. I also write my own blog about my journey and just about uplifting things that people can use in their life and things that can encourage them.
I was going to say, when I was talking about the style when you are so uplifting, and I think your message is not that, you guys, Justin and Randy, are not uplifting, but you really focus on the encouragement and the really keep going and pushing forward in the encouraging messages. So we'll get more into that and your secrets, but Justin, let me hear from you, who is super funny and also super informative, and you do bring hope, I promise.
Well, that's going to be a tough act to follow, but I will get the ball rolling here. I am Justin Berkpickler. I advocate for testicular cancer and men's health in general, awareness of both, because I was diagnosed with testicular cancer at 25 about a year and a half ago, and when I just started kind of writing up my story on a private Google Doc, and then I eventually decided to go public with it. And what really prompted me to go so public with it and continue is just how under-discussed men's health is, and that just people don't talk about their health. And I understand it is a tough nut to crack, but we can't drop the ball, and some people might get a little testy with it, but those are 3 puns in a row, and I've maxed out for the evening.
No, don't max out with the puns. I love it. And you will also see the puns all over all his social sites and websites. So definitely, like I said, hilarious patient leader nominee. So, and last but not least, Randy, who actually was our WeGo Health Best in Show Twitter winner last year.
Yeah, so my name's Randy, and back in 2012, I woke up with some numbness, which ultimately led to a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. So coming up on 6 years now in November. And I remember one of the first things I did was, you go to Dr. Google, right? And, isn't that what everybody does? So it's not the greatest thing in the world. So kind of found out that interacting with other people with the disease is what helped me the most in accepting it. So I wanted to do the same. So through multiple pages, starting on Facebook initially, but created the account Must Stop MS, and then which migrated to Twitter, has now hosted a weekly tweet chat called Chat MS every Monday evening. And so it's a great place for everybody to get together, make new connections, get the support they need.
Yeah, so like I said, 3 all-star patient leaders. You guys said it yourselves. They're really incredible, and we will make sure that everyone is getting their social links because they are great. But I want to now jump into Twitter, which I know some people kind of feel like it's overwhelming. There's a lot going on, and we're just hoping to get all your secrets, all your strategies, and kind of just like your advice for patient leaders in general. And first, I want to hear how you use this platform for your advocacy, because I know some patient leaders, you know, their blog is their main platform, and then they use Twitter just to share their blog posts every once in a while. But then I know, Randy, like you really actively are on Twitter through your tweet chat every month. So what are each of your strategies in that way? How do you utilize the platform, and kind of, is it your primary platform, or is it more part of, you know, the whole picture? So not to throw you on the spot, but Randy, let's start with you.
Okay. So kind of what you mentioned earlier, I kind of use Twitter for a couple of reasons. Obviously the tweet chat, which brings everybody together at a certain time, but I also try to provide informative links, whether there's news articles or research or things like that. And plus with some funny memes or memes, however you want to say it, I guess. But so, you know, just kind of switch it out. And one of the biggest things is, even though I tweet from the Must Stop MS handle, like I still, like people know it's still a personal, like they know it's me, not a business, if that makes sense. So you kind of get that personal feel to it.
Yeah, I think that's also true with the Epilepsy Network in Tiffany's case, where you really do make it known that there's a face behind the Epilepsy Network. You know, it's Tiffany that's putting out all the work and all the, you know, the posts. And I think you make that really apparent. How do you use the platform when it comes to your advocacy?
Oh, me.
Sorry.
You know, I see your face. I really do. I have to, piggyback off of what Randy was saying. I do like to, share news, and I like to share facts. And with that too, I like to educate those who are diagnosed, caregivers, and I like to try and, really break the stigmas by trying to debunk the myths that are surrounding epilepsy still to this day.
Justin, I want to make sure that you get noted as well. So how do you use the platform when it comes to your advocacy?
Yeah, so I use it a little bit different, since what I try to do is try to educate the general public about testicular cancer and men's health. I originally started on Twitter as a teacher tweeter, if you will, which is just as hard to say as patient leader tweeter. So a lot of my following are actually, I'd say probably well over half of my following is still teachers, which is great because they're not, well, prior to me, they weren't exposed to being exposed to male body parts all the time. Pun intended. So I use it as an avenue to put out my blogs that I write. I also, information I find about testicular cancer, I put out there. And then I also just, a couple times a day, I just go on and search for testicular cancer and see if there's like an interesting article, and then I just retweet it. So I use mine as more of a platform to share people who might not be in the know about testicular cancer. And if they've stayed following me since I've been diagnosed, now they know a lot, and I'm always trying to find more people.
Well-informed people, I'm sure. So Twitter is kind of used to maybe get the audience that aren't really, the eyes are strictly on your blog. Maybe that's where they first stumble upon you or something, and then they start to really understand more about, men's health in general and get that awareness. So when it comes to people that are starting to follow you guys, how do you stay engaged with your followers? So I know that it's important to like them, like tweets and respond, but I want to hear that, your side of that, but I also want to hear, like, do you limit yourself to engaging them for like an hour a day, or do you have a schedule where you say, I'm going to engage with everyone on Twitter for an hour, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or what's that look like for each of you? Tiffany, I'll jump to you.
I have a window of time where I like to really spend my time on Twitter. It's between like 9 a.m. and 3, where I like to, really put my tweets out there, put my information, my blogs, anything that I have that can really capture the attention of those that are affected by epilepsy, or can actually take away something that can help them to learn a little bit more about the condition. And studies have shown that in this window of time between 9 a.m. and 3, you'll have more engagements.
Yeah.
So you're saying the time frame is important.
Yes,
That's the most popular. Okay.
exactly. You want to really go for that. And I've actually, tested that out and have found that to be really beneficial. So
Wonderful. Awesome. So the top tip right there. Justin, can we jump to you?
Yeah, so I don't have a set time frame where I jump on. It's just kind of when I have a couple minutes here and there. I'll go and see my notifications, respond to notifications, then I'll go and I'll just kind of scroll through, kind of like how I said, I'll be looking for either, sometimes I'll just search, June is Men's Health Month. So I've just been checking that hashtag throughout the month and engaging with people. And one thing I saw a couple weeks ago, somebody tweeted something that was just false about testicular cancer. And I said, hey, that's not true. Or I said it in a nice way. I don't know if that's exactly how I said it, but it led to like a good conversation with a complete stranger. So, that's how oftentimes, and then what I find that I engage with a lot of current patients more so than the general public is I'll tweet something or someone will ask a question. I'll be like, oh, here's a piece I wrote about that. And then they'll end up DMing me. And there's a guy who just got diagnosed and went through surgery, and they just check in throughout. And, I try to be there for them, but I also have to respect my own boundaries as well.
Yeah, which is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, but you just made a lot of excellent points. And with one being the emotional balance thing. And so is there, do you find yourself checking your notifications too much a day and you have to limit it, or are you pretty good at it? I know
it kind of all depends. Like if it's someone who I know I'm in the middle of a conversation with, I'll make sure I'm checking it a little bit more frequently. And if it's like I'm going to bed, I will tell that person, hey, I'm going to bed. I'm not ignoring you, but or I'm not going to be available to talk. And also, there was a person who I write about mental health a little bit too, and some guy was telling me about some struggles he was having with mental health, and I was just upfront with him, and I said, buddy, I don't think I'm the person who's right to help you here. I think you need to contact someone else. And he said, I think I will. So and that's what I found is being honest with the person, because you are effectively a stranger to them, but you have the common bond of, in my case, only having one ball. But it's just being honest with them and letting them know, I'm not ignoring you, but I am a person too. I don't just sit here on Twitter all day.
I think that is so important that we always harp on this, that a lot of patients don't really take that time, but really to even take the moment to just say, I'm not the right person, and not, just try to be that person because you want to help this person. You're going to help them more if you point them in a better direction. And I think, like you just said, responding to the people is really where your engagement is. And I think it's something that takes a lot of effort and you don't really see the results up front. And so a lot of people give up.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Right.
slowly your engagement will grow the more you are interacting and really, fostering those conversations. Randy, I haven't forgot about you. I want to hear from you as well. How do you engage, jump in the conversation? How do you engage with your followers?
So I'll just add something real quick to what Justin said. But I think a huge piece of being a patient leader is if you get those questions that you're uncomfortable with or you're not familiar with, that you can guide them in the right direction. And I think that's a big piece of that as well.
Yes.
And like you said, you were honest with them, and I think that's the best thing that could be done. But so back to the original question, aside from Monday nights, I don't really have a set schedule. Just kind of go on if I see an article or if I come across something or something pops into my head, and I make sure I'm not on it 24 hours a day or anything like that. But just kind of be like the 9 to 3. That's the first time I've heard about that, so that's very interesting. But I've tried posting at different times just for different time zone purposes, and things like that as well, to try to reach people that may not be able to look at their Twitter feed at that time, or just post often at different times of the day, just to try to get that broader audience.
Right, especially now that we are a global audience, it is important to hit those time frames and time zones and everything. I know that I've heard 9 to 3. I've heard multiple things. If you Google it, you'll get multiple results. I think the thing is that you just need to test it yourself, because every audience, every community is going to be different. You really have to test it.
Right, yeah. I tested it for myself. Whatever works best for you, that's important.
Yeah, I know, just because a lot of my community was originally teachers, and teachers have the majority of their time on Twitter in the evening. And that's where I find I get most engagement, because obviously they're from 9 to 3. We're supposed to be teaching, but who does
that?
Yeah. So do you guys have any tools for tracking this, or is it more just trial and error? Or do you guys use any like literally or anything like that?
You cut out there. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Do you guys have any tools that help you track that with, what times you're posting or your feedback? Do you guys use any like analytics tracking or anything like that?
For me, it really is just trial and error.
Yeah. Okay. I think sometimes that's kind of the best way to go, no matter what
really
type of.
Is.
Yeah, if you post those and you can put it
It really is. And yeah.
Okay, so now I want to talk about posting our tweets. So how do you guys determine exactly what to post? I know that you said you all like to really pull in, informative tweets, like informative articles or news in that community. But do you, is there any rules you guys stick to? I know some patient leaders like to share their personal life, and some people like to really just keep it separate. So kind of what's your special recipe? Randy, you want to jump to you?
Sure. So again, I try to blend a little bit of personal and funny and informative and supportive, kind of to blend it all in one. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear that.
Sounds like some cats.
Yeah, it's a new kitten, and the other cats aren't happy with it. So, sorry.
Fine.
But so I kind of post, like, I think posting often is good as long as it's relevant. Like if people are following my account to get information on MS, but like most of my posts have nothing to do with it at all, and I'm posting it constantly, like I think that would drive people away a little bit. So I think posting often is good as long as it's relevant to what people are there following you for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna branch off from what Randy said. For a while I was towing the line between having tweets about education and then tweets about testicular cancer, and those two things don't really go together very well. And I think it was very jarring from, here's a post about how to check your balls, and then here's a post how kids sit on yoga balls. While they're both about balls, they're two very different types. And that actually happened a couple times. But I think being consistent, and I like to draw the people in with my personal story, and then go to the larger thing. So I might tweet a picture about like me holding a gym bag, and but that bag is part of a larger narrative of how I got time back from cancer. So I think that kind of thing, just people connect with the story first before they get into the facts. They don't want just the facts. You need to hook them with something. Mm-hmm. And then once you have their engagement hooked, then you can engage them further.
Mm-hmm. I have to agree with that. Both of them said exactly what I would have said, is pretty much you want to share your story, let them know your journey, and help them to understand that they're not alone. I share some of my blogs sometimes. Sometimes I share a bit about my website, the Epilepsy Network, and I like to retweet some relevant information from people that I follow, organizations that I follow, such as We Go Health.
Gonna say, I know I do get tagged from Tiffany. It always makes my day. But yeah, and I think also you were saying, your audiences weren't really maybe such so structured at the beginning, and I kind of think that that's something that we hear from a lot of patient leaders. Like, I don't really know who, if I'm targeting caregivers and the patients, if I'm targeting everyone because I want to teach them about health overall or specifically in an area. And I think it's, again, trial and error, where it's kind of the more you explore what you are, you know, having passion to write about and to really educate about, that's kind of where you can find your audience. I think it just so for any new patient leaders, it just takes time. You gotta keep going to be as great as these folks one day.
And the thing is too is like there's no like everybody approaches it a different way, so there's no wrong way to do it either. You just have to find what works for you.
Right.
Exactly. So when it comes to posting, does it work for you to just post on the fly, whatever, you know, comes up? Or do you have like a schedule of content for the month or week, or how does that look? And do you use any apps to help you along the way to schedule it? Justin?
All right. So full disclosure, a lot of my Twitter is actually completely automated. I use a couple different programs to help me along with that, and the biggest one I use is a program called RecurPost. And what it does is I load a bunch of tweets, blog posts, pictures, whatever they might be, that are kind of evergreen content that I want to come up over and over and over. And then I just basically programmed it to shoot out a tweet I have it set up for, basically goes around the clock, kind of like what Randy was saying, to meet the needs of all the different time zones. So I use that. And then another tool that I use is I use TweetDeck a lot to schedule tweets for specific times. So I try to follow like each daily trending hashtag, like Wednesday wisdom and Monday motivation. And then I will tweet a fact about testicular cancer with that hashtag on that day. So then that hopefully goes into the, you know, Twitter sphere. But so those two tools have been hugely helpful. And then when I'm on Twitter, like me personally, I can focus on the actual engagement with other tweeters. But it looks like I'm on Twitter a lot more than I really am. But you know, to get the message out there.
Yeah, it's what you got to do. That's how you are sustainable as a patient leader. Just getting help with automation does not make it any less valuable, important. It's really the matter that if we can use tools to schedule things out, that means more of our emotion can go to those one-on-one interactions. And you say TweetDeck, and I've got to say, I discovered TweetDeck for the first time this year. And it's actually like ultimately changed my entire life. I don't know how I've ever participated in a Twitter chat before TweetDeck, because I get so overwhelmed because I had like my phone and I was like on my laptop and my tablet. Like I was so overwhelmed. And then TweetDeck is just this blessing where everything goes into one. And I know, Randy, with your chat MS, are you all about TweetDeck?
Yeah, it's TweetDeck only pretty much when it comes to the chat, because that way you can have your columns for the notifications, you know, your hashtag following the chat, and then, you know, for any column you want. But it definitely helps tremendously without having to switch back and forth.
Totally. Do you have any other apps that you use, or you know, do you post on the go, or do you schedule it out? What does that look like?
Most, probably 80% is just on the fly.
Yeah.
There are times where I will schedule. A couple weeks ago, I just introduced like chat MS replays, I guess, to where at 7 o'clock I'll do live, but then I'll schedule them out to start again for other time zones. Like I'll have 2 replays at different times across the next day. So I'll schedule those out. Or then for MS Awareness Month, like I'll post every day, like an MS graphic every single day. And sometimes I'll post that out. That way they're going out around similar times, and, you know, I don't happen to forget one day. So automation definitely helps, but a lot of mine is on the fly.
Wow. I really salute people who don't use the automation. I'm like, I don't know how you do it. I feel like I forget something. You guys are incredible. Tiffany, how about you? What does it look like for you?
You know, I really don't use TweetDeck. I really just, like he said, I tweet, you know, just on the go. I just tweet regularly. I don't like to blow up my Twitter account with a bunch of tweets, so I just tweet a couple times in the morning, maybe throw one out in the afternoon, and maybe a couple in the evening, and, you know, just that. And, you know, if I see a moment where something is going on that's really important, I want to be a part of that, you know? So yeah, I just try and throw a couple out there, just not too many, so it looks like I'm blowing up my Twitter account.
Yes, don't be the person that tweets every like, three tweets an hour. We don't
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
promise. I don't do that. I'm not guilty. Okay, so then now I want to talk hashtags, which I feel like this is something that everyone is like, you have to use the hashtags, especially when you want to find your tribe, find your community.
Yeah.
But then I feel like all the really important people don't really use hashtags that much on Twitter. And I'm like, how are you getting all these likes and you're not hashtagging? So why use a hashtag, or what is your take on the hashtags? Tiffany, we'll bump back.
You know, I typically stick to 2 to 3 hashtags.
Okay.
And I really don't like to, just flood my tweets with hashtags. This is so people can just really focus on the message
Yeah.
and just so that they can focus on the relevancy of what I'm trying to say. And it just, sticks to,
Yeah, I feel like sometimes when I see too many hashtags, I'm just like, oops, salesy, I'm not even going to read that. Like,
right, yeah.
Justin, I see you guys shaking your head. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think didn't catch which one of the two of you said it, but making sure it's relevant. Like, you could just follow the trending hashtags and just tweet to those. But like, that is a good way to get the message out there. But tailor it to be something like about that. For instance, like there was a big educational conference this past week, and I happened to use the hashtag for the conference, just to say that I just had scans earlier this week and I found out I'm still in remission. So I used that hashtag just to let a lot of the community know, and that tweet just kind of blew up. So I think it's really about finding what works, and definitely no more than 3, because like you said, if you see, you have 4 words in your tweet and then 27 hashtags, nobody's going to look at it. Just because we have 280 characters now doesn't mean you need to use all 280.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too, because you see, like I actually don't use a lot of hashtags, but you see like when they
or people I'm talking about.
So like Justin just said, when they doubled their character limit to 280 from the 140, like you see normal 140 character posts, but then you see another 140 in hashtags, and it's making the post bigger. As like you said, they're real salesy, and I just think it just drives people away. To where if you do use a hashtag, use like you said 2 or 3, people actually read the hashtag or take the time, rather than I'm not searching through all of those to figure out what I really want.
Right.
All right, so we talked hashtags, we talked our content. Now when it comes to our followers, is there any magical, effective way to get more followers? I mean, what is your take on that? Is that something that, too, it just takes time? Or is there ways that you guys, can pay to get it? I don't know. What does it look like for each of you? Justin? Trying to
Yeah. So I'm probably the worst person to start with this because I have no answer. It's just I don't pay for followers. I know that's probably like a bunch of bots is who you end up getting. But what I found is just it all comes back to engagement. Is I'll find someone, I'll tweet something, people will follow, and I do try to follow back. That seems to be sometimes something that works, unless it's like obviously a very spammy account. But I think that it's all about two-way street is how you can build a following.
Right.
Yeah, for me, I don't pay for followers either. So to me, it's all organic. And again, your followers will grow if they know you're real and they know you're relevant and providing good information. So slowly, and for me, like the quality of followers is way more important than quantity. So I would much rather have that connection, with the followers I have, rather than worried about how many.
Right.
Tiffany, do you have any thoughts to add to that? I know we all kind of agree.
Absolutely. I have to agree with, both of them. It's about, and Justin too, it being a two-way street. You really have to have that conversation and you really have to have that engagement. I mean, I would say even to be a part of Twitter chats, like the We Go Health Twitter chats, get involved, just, talk and, retweet some of their, uh, conversations, some of their tweets that are beneficial and relevant, that gets the ball rolling right there. Shows that.
What you did there, I like it.
Oh no.
Well, it shows that you care. It shows that you care.
Yeah, totally.
And also too, if you're retweeting, like say for the WeGo Health chats, actually are a good example to where you have many patient leaders for many conditions. Yet even though the conditions are different, a lot of like the emotions behind it or even physical symptoms can be very similar. So you kind of reach more people that way too with, even if you expand beyond whatever you're advocating for, but just people know that, like you said, you care.
Yeah. We say that time and time again, that it's really, it's so easy to get narrowly focused in your community, but in reality, at the end of the day, we all probably go through very similar emotional roller coasters and challenges, ups and downs. And definitely as patient leaders, we all feel the same exhaustion of blogging and keeping up content and dealing with challenges or conflict. Like, we all have very similar experiences. And I think Twitter is such an easy way where we can easily interact with people in different condition areas. I think, you can do that on Facebook and Instagram, but I think it's a lot easier to kind of get lost in your own community on those platforms for some reason. I don't know if that's just me, but I think Twitter kind of allows that broader, interaction with everyone. I know we had a question saying, how central is Twitter to the patient leader community? Here at WeGo Health, a lot of our interactions with patient leaders is through Twitter, not even just through our WeGo Health chats, but that's usually how people contact us, excuse me, or how we meet new patient leaders, definitely how we, interact and discover and meet new ones. So I'm sorry, I'm clearly getting over a cold. But as we are starting to close up, if anyone has any questions, please throw them in the chat box. But I do want to go around to each of you and just share any closing thoughts you have for our patient leaders, whether this is advice or maybe a tip or something, just a thought to leave them with as a top patient leader tweeter. Got it. All right. Tiffany, we'll start with you.
Well, I just really have to say that having a chronic illness, it's not easy. I'm just going to put it out there. It's just not. But, with an optimistic mindset, you can overcome so many challenges and struggles. I mean, just absolutely, without a doubt, you can just overcome it.
Yes, so remembering to overcome it, and when you're doubting yourself,
just have that optimistic mindset. Know that you're not alone.
Know that you're not alone. And that's why I say it's really important to exactly follow other patient leaders that you know, because that moment when you're feeling down is when you can look to your fellow patient leaders.
Yeah, reach out in Twitter and, talk to people.
All right. Well said. Justin, how about you?
Yeah. So I would say kind of to branch off from that a little bit is kind of be the resource you wish you had when you were diagnosed, because that's don't worry about going viral or gaining a huge follower. Just if you're there for one person that think back to, because that was a big motivation of why I got started, is how did I not know testicular cancer was such a problem, because nobody talked about it as much. So I want to be that person that I wish I had in October 2016, and that's what keeps me going.
I think that's beautifully said. I actually just tweeted a quote like that this week, and I got the most engagement I've had on it, and it was because I think that's something that's so true, is that we've all had the moment when we were diagnosed and we said, holy, and went to Google, and it was the worst, like Randy said, the worst site ever. So really just being, when you're wondering what you should be, you just need to be who you needed at that moment when you were really weak. Well said, Justin. Randy, what are your closing thoughts?
So I guess again, I would say there's no wrong way to advocate or be a patient leader. I mean, you don't have to follow somebody else and what they're doing. You know, go at your own pace and find what works for you, and just be yourself. Just be yourself. Look out there and see what others are doing, but you don't necessarily have to follow. Just find what works for you, and then it'll grow in time.
Yeah, beautifully said. And I know we have some people asking, if you have more than one chronic illness, what should we advocate for all of them? Or I think it comes back to you just have to trial and error. If you have multiple illnesses and you're feeling like they all really have to do with your everyday life, then write about them all. But if you aren't comfortable, then you don't. And I think it's just trial and error with your Twitter account. As the more your presence grows as a patient leader, you'll kind of start to find your way through Twitter. You just got to get through the maybe slower beginning is what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah.
What I like about Twitter is with such a few amount of letters, characters, you can potentially make a really big impact.
Yes, that's
Absolutely.
very well said. I love that. And we all know that people don't really like to read that much anymore. So Twitter is really an excellent way to get those quick messages out, which I know we're laughing, but it's so true. It's like so quickly we need to look through something. So Twitter is really an excellent way to keep those up to date and keep your community updated with what's going on. So thank you guys for joining us. I really do appreciate it. Tiffany, Justin, Randy, you have been incredible. Thank you for sharing all your secrets. Everyone, don't worry. We will have the recap in case you missed anything. We'll have it up on our blog next week. We'll also be compiling a Twitter tip cheat sheet for you guys comprised of everything we talked about today. So you can start having a incredible Twitter feed just like our hosts today. So thank you. Please tune in tomorrow morning. We're meeting with our 2017 Best in Fit podcast winner, Gabe Howard, at 11 a.m. on our Facebook page. So you don't want to work on Friday morning. So come kick it with us on the We Go Health Facebook page. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.